Hi everyone, Armoured Pants here, and I have another video for you in the British Lines Tier 7 Comet medium tank. As always, you will have a look at the tech spec before gameplay using blitzhanger.com. Now, this is actually the first video in the promotion that we're having, our coronavirus support, staying at home office support. So there's going to be a 6-digit code hidden in this video somewhere. Take note of it. There's 2 more codes, so 3 in total, hidden in videos this week over the next 10 days. Collect all the codes, email them to me at armouredpants@gmail.com, and if you have the correct 3 codes and you're a subscriber, you'll get entered into the draw and you can have a free premium tank, anything that's in the shop as of the results coming out, which will be in exactly 10 days time on March 24th, which is 2020 in case you're watching this in the future. Now let's have a look at the tech spec. This is a good medium tank. It's a solid performer. Gets a lot of bad press, but and we'll talk about that in a second. In terms of provisions, I would use run black tea, max out the view range at 302 meters, and also helps to reload. At 302 meters, by the way, that's one of the best view ranges in the tier. There are 2 gun types. There's a 75 and a 77mm gun. Now, normally I would recommend the top gun always, but there is a slight problem with the top gun, and we're going to discuss that in a second. With the top gun, if you decide to go for that, you get 148mm of pen with AP, 208mm with APCR, and only 20 with HE. You get 3.37 second reload with gun rammer, and if you're running black tea as well, and you're doing 160 to 200 damage points per round with AP. So it has very good rate of fire. APCR is going to give you 135 to 165 damage points, and HE 200 to 250 if you can use it, because it only has 20mm of pen with the top gun. Muzzle velocity is only 785 meters per second. It's very low. Even with supercharge, it goes up to 1021 meters per second. It's 1275 meters per second with APCR, so it's 20% faster round muzzle velocity with APCR. So take note of that in terms of your shell management. Gun depression is 12 degrees, gun elevation is 20, so this tank has excellent gun alignment. What is gun alignment? With basically, it's the ease with which you can align your gun with the enemy. It does 51.5 kilometers per hour in a straight line, 18 reverse, so it is fast, but it is slower than the Cromwell, so when you're upgrading, take note of that. It has decent power to weight ratio, but also not as good as the Cromwell, so it will feel a little bit sluggish compared to the Cromwell. It's also a slightly bigger tank in terms of its size, so it's a bigger target as well. So 2 things to take note of when you upgrade from the Cromwell. In terms of concealment numbers, they are good. With a tank with view range of 298 meters, needs to get within 225 meters of view to spot you, which is pretty good. That goes up to 241 meters if you're moving, and worst case scenario when you're firing and moving at the same time, it's still just over 280 meters. Now the good thing about that is, though, that is less than the view, that is higher than the view range of most heavy tanks, so they won't be able to spot you at this. So the concealment numbers are pretty good on this tank, and you can use those to good effect. You can see, looking at the sides and back, and that it doesn't really have too much armor, but as an experienced blitzer, you will note that it does have good turret armor. It has a big gun mantlet, and with that gun depression, what's it saying to you? It's saying that this tank can play hull down. If we look here front on, you'll see that the turret's going to be difficult to pen. Even on the lightly armored part, it's difficult to pen because the gun mantlet is very big, and this can be used significant advantage along with that gun depression to go hull down. And if you want to snipe from distance, you're going to use supercharge. I would also use gun rammer to get that reload speed up, because this really is a rate of fire pummeling monster when it gets going. And I would also then use vertical stabilizer, because it's a medium tank, you're going to fire a lot when you're moving. I would use engine accelerator as well. And then it's up to you if you want to use enhanced armor or improved insanity. I would use enhanced armor because I want to get some bounces off that turret. Now, I also mentioned that if we look at the top gun, you only get 20mm of pen. You get 38mm of pen with the 75mm gun. So therefore, I've run one game for you in the gameplay to have a look at it with the lower gun, because the lower tier gun has a very similar rate of fire. Doesn't have such good pen, but the pen is actually alright. One of the things about this tank is you're going to have to use APCR if you're going to penetrate heavies, especially tier 8 heavies front on. So if you use an APCR, then it doesn't really matter if it's a 75 or 77mm gun. Now let's have a look at the first game, which is on Winter Malenkova, and I am running the lower 75mm gun on the tank. So you can see about 3.5 second reload, running gun rammer and black tea. So what I'm going to do is, as I often do on this map, if I'm in a light medium tank, I'm going to pop up here and I'm going to use my view range. I'm going to use my gun depression, see if I can find any customers at A. So this is basically what you should be doing all the time in a light medium tank. You should be going out to the flank and you should be trying to see if you can spot up the enemy, which is good for you and good for your team. We have our first customer here, and pop one into him, and I thought I'd get away with rolling back there, but I just caught one. Thought I might bounce off that turret, but I caught one. But those of you who've watched my videos will know I'm a pretty aggressive blitz player. I don't really believe in hanging back. I believe taking a fight to the enemy. And you can see here though, with the reload on this tank, it really is it's a rate of fire monster, right? It's a pummeling monster, like many British tanks. You can just put round after round in, and you can see like when that T-54 was reloading, I was able to put 3 rounds into him while he's reloading, and I'm safe enough to do that because I know he's not going to be able to hit me because he's on a reload, right? We know that this tank has a significantly longer reload than the Comet that I'm in. So there we go, cleared him off, captured the base, and this is a perfect opening to a game in a medium tank. Go and spot the flank, capture the base, and clear that flank of enemy tanks, and now we can move into flanking positions to help our heavy tanks and TDs. So, more or less perfect start to the game in terms of medium and light tank play. We get lucky here. This Rim Borsig is AFK, so we get really lucky. My view on AFK tanks, the zombie rule. Take them out while they're AFK because they can easily come back alive. So for example, if I start the game and I get disconnected or whatever, I usually log out and then I usually change my connection, so I go onto Wi-Fi or go off Wi-Fi and use LTE or whatever, and I log back in. It normally takes about a minute or 90 seconds to do that, and maximum 2 minutes. So if I come back into a game, I will be alive, and if I'm behind you in a Rim Borsig, I'm going to do a lot of damage, right, if I've been ignored. So that's why zombie rule, in case they come back from the dead, take them out while they're AFK. No shame in it, nothing wrong with it. It is good and sensible blitz play, because not every player decides he's going to try to get back in, but I always do, and I think most good and experienced players will try to change their internet connection and come back in. So therefore you should take them out while they are AFK, because they can come back and do a lot of damage, especially if they are a good and experienced blitz player who is somebody who would come back. And the last thing you need is a player like that coming in behind you, especially if they're a big gun like the Borsig, but it doesn't really matter what they're in. They come back in, you think they're AFK, and they can change the course of a game. If you don't normally do that, by the way, then I would recommend you do that, because you can change the course of a game, especially if the Reds ignore you and you come back at full health points and you are behind the enemy. You can see here what I mentioned. I have the lower 75mm gun, so I'm switching up to APCR. And I am going to use that to good effect here, taking out the IS-3, taking out the Tankenstein as well. Yeah, you can see again, she's penetrating the Chieftain as well. So you can see, people often complain about using APCR, gold, noob and all that, which doesn't make any sense anymore because you have to pay, you pay with credits anyway. But APCR and Pramo is in the game for a reason. If you could pen all the time and on every occasion with normal AP rounds, they wouldn't have APCR. It's there for a reason. Don't be afraid to use it, and don't mind what other people say about you. In fact, if people complain about using premium rounds, you should just say to them, well, you should take it as a compliment because I actually spent money to kill you. So that's my view on it. Things are in the game for a reason. You've got a toolbox, use them. So there we go. Pretty good game with the Comet. Pretty good medium tank game. You can see I was up tier there, and I had the lower tier 75mm gun on the tank, and you can see that I think it went pretty well, and you know, I finished top there with base XP of 1.23, which is pretty good for a tier 7 that delivered the mastery badge. This tank, I said at the start of the game that this tank gets a lot of bad press. I've seen a lot of people in forums complaining about it. I've seen a lot of people saying it's useless, a lot of people saying they don't like it. I don't play the British line that much, I have to say, so I'm playing it now for the videos, and we're going to go all the way up to tier 10. I just shot the footage for the FV 4202, which is the tier 10 medium, so the video's coming on that. And I've got the Scent done, the Scent 7.1 done, so we're going to have a look at them all. And I found them all pretty decent tanks, and some are better than others, but I didn't find any of them really bad, and I didn't find any of them that can't deliver. You can see here that this tank delivered a Master Gunner badge and a Mastery badge in that game. So, you know, I don't really think there's anything really wrong with this tank. People complain about it a lot, but you can see there I was able to hold my own in a game when I was up tiered, and I had only the 75mm gun. This game I'm running the 77mm gun, the top gun. Again, it's still not great, and I understand people complain about the lack of pen and that, but look, this tank has a fantastic rate of fire, right? Really does, right? 3.47 second reload, right? So you can afford to miss a few shots. It's not like it has a 14-second reload, whereas if it doesn't pen, you gotta wait an age until you can fire again, right? You know, I think also people don't really understand the whole premise of how tanks need to be balanced. You can't have this penning every single time, a guaranteed pen every single time when you've got a 3.5 second reload, right? You know, wargaming have to balance it so that it's fair. But if you use it correctly, and of course you use your Pramo, your APCR, when you need it, you will pen more often than not. And if you don't pen, take it on the chin, and just then, you know, utilize that rate of fire to put your next round in and make sure that pens, you know. Don't get too caught up on this tank if it doesn't pen every time. I mean, okay, so what? We've wasted 3.5 seconds. If you dropped adrenaline, you've wasted just over 3 seconds. It's not a big deal, right? You know, assess, reassess, this time find a different aiming point and fire again, right? This tank is forgiving in that respect. But you can see here, side on and at the back of most tanks, even with normal AP rounds, it's going to go through. Heavily armored IS here, it's going to go through him. Not a problem. And you can see with the rate of fire and the maneuverability, you can see here I'm doing Circle of Death, face hugging him, body hugging him, and you know, this tank you know, really does the job. Of course, if you go front on to an IS-3 or an IS-6 and face hug him, you're going to lose. But I mean, you have to understand the basic parameters of the tank. Right? That's not what this tank is about. This tank is a medium tank. And you know, you should be firing to the sides and back of tanks more often than not. You should be using the speed, the mobility and the agility of the tank to get around, to get yourself into positions where you can pen. And as I said, if you don't pen, it's not such a big deal. You don't have to wait very long until you get your next shot off. So again, you know, when you understand the basic parameters of this tank and what it can and can't do, then it will perform for you. You know, another great thing, it's not, you don't see it in either of these games too much, but another great thing is you can get into a good hold down sniping position in this tank. Because of this rate of fire, you can do amazing damage. Really amazing damage in this tank. And you know, I think you know, you should play to the strengths of this tank, which are basically its strong turret, its gun depression, its reload, and its mobility, its concealment numbers, and its view range. You will do well in this tank. If you are thinking that you're going to bounce shots off the front armor of big heavies and stuff like that, and you're going to pen ISs and Tiger 2s front on, then you're not going to do well, you're going to be disappointed. But if you play this tank as it should be played, playing to its strengths and mitigating its weaknesses, then this tank will perform and it is not a bad performer, at all. So there we go, second game. I think first class mastery badge, and that probably, you see, I got a Confederate badge. If I got a few more kills, probably would have got a mastery badge in that again. But yeah, overall good game and a good display of the Comet's strengths. So let's have a recap on this tank. It's a good medium tank. Plays like the Cromwell, but with a little bit less mobility due to the poor power to weight ratio and top speed. Top gun is a 77mm gun. 75mm gun has better HE pen, so take note of that. It's fast, it's agile, but less so than the Cromwell, so just be aware of that when you're upgrading from the Cromwell, when you're moving from tier 6 to tier 7. Rate of fire is super, and that is much better than the Cromwell. You can pummel the enemy in this tank, just boom, 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 boom. 3.3 second reload on top gun, doing 160 to 200 damage points. 3.5 second on the lower 75mm gun, still excellent. Good power to weight ratio, really nice gun, really nice handling on the tank. Again, not as good as the Cromwell before, but in the tank in itself is good. Circle death, as you saw in the videos, very good at that. It's very agile, mobile. I would use supercharge or vertical stabilizer when setting up the gun, and personally I would use gun rammer because the pen is so low. You're going to need to use APCR anyway if you're onto front onto a big heavy. View range, concealment numbers, mobility, great toolbox. Use them. And hold down sniping. It is excellent at that due to the gun depression and the strong turret and big gun mantlet, which makes penning the turret extremely difficult. So use those strengths of the tank and mitigate its weaknesses, because as I said, this tank gets a lot of bad press, but this is a decent, solid medium tank. There's nothing wrong with it. Of course, it has weak armor at the sides and back, etc. But you know, and it has a relatively weak gun. But you know, it's a medium tank. It's not a front-on heavy. Play to its strengths, and you will enjoy it. Cheers, much. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you found it useful. And I guess all that remains for me to say is, pants off.